Hello and welcome to The Dive. This is episode 4 of season 3. This is Azael. I am Kobe, and our special guest is WildTurtle. Welcome, WildTurtle.
What's up?
How are you doing this fine morning?
It's pretty early morning for us gamers. Doing pretty good.
Bright and early. We had to get him in before the scrim so we could have him for 9.3. We're going to be talking about that with all the Marksman changes. So we're really glad to have you here for that. But first, Turtle, you're a content man yourself these days. So we wanted to ask you, how did it feel to be the man doing the interviews instead of getting interviewed with your FlyQuest interview series?
It felt pretty fun just because I always get interviews, so I kind of know like the questions I kind of want to ask to the other players too. And as a player, I kind of know what answers I want to be asked, so I just kind of just did something like that. And yeah, I think that's kind of how my interview style was. I just do what
you wanted.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed when you went to Worlds and you were interviewing a lot of the players and you kept asking your cameraman for the next question. A little bit more prep work, maybe?
No, I mean, I did my own prep too, but they prompt me. I talked to them about it and they reminded me what it is.
Always helpful when you got good people around you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely makes it easier. Do you think you'd want to do more content stuff like that in the future? Because it seemed like you had some fun with it. People really liked it. I had heard about you doing these interviews, and I was like, okay, yeah, someone doing some more interviews. But then when I actually watched it, I ended up watching all of them in a row, and I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I definitely want to do like something similar to it. Like it's something that's really fun to me, and we're gonna be MSIs in Vietnam this year, and I speak a little bit, so.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty hype.
That's super cool. So FlyQuest starting this season has been one of the biggest stories for us, actually, because you guys just this last weekend, you guys were playing for first place against Team Liquid, and you had a close 2 games, both of them. How has the new roster been feeling for you?
It's been feeling pretty good for me personally. I feel like a lot more motivated playing on this team because we just have like pretty young players. Like I think I'm the oldest player on this team, and I'm 2 years older than the next youngest person. So it's been pretty good because we have Viper in the top lane. He's a rookie top laner, and he's really hungry to win. And when I see him making these mistakes that like maybe I made when I was like a rookie too, I'd be like, damn, he's still like in this learning phase, and he still has a lot to learn. But I really like how he's progressed as a player, and same with JJ pretty much. Yeah.
Azael was one of your biggest critics when seeing just the lineup on paper heading into the season.
Yeah. Well, when we did our power rankings, Kobe had you 7th, Jat had you 8th.
Yeah, wow.
And I had,
Thanks,
Jat
guys.
had you, no, yeah, 8th. And then I had you guys last. And I was very wrong, I will admit. But it's tough, right? There was a group of teams that we were thinking that I wasn't sure really how they would gel together. And I think one of the things that has really impressed me about your guys' team is that it does actually feel like you guys have really good teamwork. Like you're actually better, I think, than the individual pieces, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of curious how you feel as far as like community expectations for the team, what those were, and how you guys are doing now, and kind of where you guys see yourselves going forward. Because most people had you outside of playoffs, and you guys have clearly shown that you are capable of being a playoff team and maybe going even further.
I would still say it's like pretty early in the split, and it's really hard to say. Like we completely dropped the ball like this week. I'd say like we're on week 3. What
3. We've had done 3 weeks. Going into week 4.
Yeah, going into week 4. So our last week 3, I think we completely dropped the ball. We didn't really improve that much from week 2, week 3, and every team was getting better. And I think from today or yesterday, actually, we started scrims. We're like practicing a lot more like we would on LCS. So we're just gonna try to fix our macro mistakes and fix a lot of our individual and team mistakes.
Yeah, for me, what I've been seeing when watching you guys and kind of what we expected and why some of the ratings at the beginning of the season were low were the 2, kind of newest guys. Is definitely Viper because he's coming straight out of Challenger.
Yeah.
And also JJ. Because he was still pretty fresh. And some of the things like, how are they going to play with the team? Do they have good roam timings? / you still have to manage your waves so you don't fall behind in CS and things like that.
And there's so many good top laners now. I feel like in the league, I thought he was going to struggle a lot more than he has. Like he has done, I think well, certainly. Yeah, there's obviously been some mistakes here and there, but he's going up against Huni and someday and Impact and all these guys, and it's like, oh my god! I was looking at it from that point of view. It seems pretty intimidating league for a new top laner.
Yeah, I think for him, he's like really confident. Like he knows he can like play 1v1 against these players, but his biggest issue is not the 1v1 right now. It's like how he's moving around the mid game, how he's getting us to windows, how he's pressuring the map. And I think that's like the biggest difference coming straight from like Challenger into LCS, because the LCS players, their roam windows are a lot larger and they know what to do.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. I mean, we've been focusing so much on team play, especially this season, that like one of the biggest difficulties is communication and like how each team works differently depending on the personality.
Yeah, depending on the person, yeah.
I also feel like one of the things that you guys have had a lot of success with, and I think just in general, I've seen it throughout LCS, the split, is teams drafting multiple forms of engage are having such a better time than these teams that are drafting things like where maybe Lee is their only form of engage and they're doing, Lee Aatrox and all this sort of stuff that's more mid and early game focused, where if you make that one mistake, then all of a sudden the other team, has better scaling, has the Scion, has the Ornn, all this sort of stuff. And I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are just on the meta in general, as far as, all these hard engaged teams, because we've seen so many times now throughout this split where teams draft early game, draft mid game, and then either aren't able to actually close or, maybe the other team just kind of is outscaling them with these tanks.
I just think right now the issue is it's pretty early in the split, and a lot of teams haven't picked comps that are like extremely clear win conditions.
Yeah.
They don't, like, some comps just don't have that. And like if you see those comps, it's like, let's say like Lucian with like very low CC team, that's like a team where it's like, how are you gonna like close the game? You can't really hit turrets.
Yeah, you're like, control the dragons all the whole game.
Yeah, and I think at least for our team, it's our biggest weakness is probably how we play around the mid game. I think a lot of the teams' mid games are like awful right now in North America, and that's a point we're working on right now.
If you could point out one main thing in the mid game, what would it be?
Our vision, like the way we control our vision, is just not ideal.
Definitely hear that a lot, and that is definitely. I mean, it's everybody's job, right? But it does put a little bit more emphasis on jungle and supports.
Yeah.
And we kind of touched on your two new guys.
Yeah.
But also, you have played with Santorin and Pobelter before in past teams. Santorin on TSM, where you guys went to Worlds, and Pobelter as well on Immortals. How has it been being reunited with these guys? Because that seems like, bringing the old crew back together. You've been actually in the scene for so long.
Yeah, I guess I have, because I've already played two of these players. It feels pretty good playing with these players again. Pobelter, he's grown a lot since the last time I played against him. It's the same with Santorin as well. I played with Santorin when he was pretty much like 17. So like he's
all grown up?
We're all grown up now. So it's definitely a whole different dynamic now. And it still feels pretty good to play with him, and I still get along with him pretty well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do think a lot of people always, look at some of these players, and it feels like some of the players on your team are guys who get overlooked a lot. When people talk about Pobelter, they're like, oh, well, Pobelter, he wasn't that, he just got carried. And Santorin, I feel like people say a lot of the same things. There's these guys who have had a tremendous amount of success and are kind of sometimes consistently getting overlooked. Do you think that's just a lack of understanding from the community, where people don't necessarily aren't able to see exactly what makes these players good or what they're actually bringing to the table other than just kills and deaths on the scoreboard?
Yeah, I think that's like one of the hardest parts about like community perceiving players, because you don't really know what they contribute to a team. You don't know like what communications they're giving, because every player does like, I would say like every player is different. No player like does the exact same thing every game. Like, even for me, like, I know I flash and do like stupid things a lot, but that's just not really
not as much anymore.
Not as much anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like an instance, and I think like some players do things extremely well, whether it's like teamwork, like sometimes you have like selfish players, and sometimes you just have players that give you everything. So there's definitely like it's like a personality game.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the things that those guys do that maybe people wouldn't actually recognize that make them so good? Because they have, Pobelter has had a ton of championships. He's had success on so many teams. What is something that he does that maybe people aren't realizing that is actually making him have these consistent results?
I think Pobelter, he's like a guy that's like really good at like understanding situations. So he's like very good at like getting us a really good like map. Like, he's just really good at engaging, I guess. You've seen as the Sandra.
And Sandra, the Galio
yeah, he's really good at flanking. He's really good at just like starting the fights and making sure we have like a good team fighting.
I kind of remember that a lot from him, just even in solo queue and even on champions like TF.
Yeah.
He's always looking for the way in, right? He's always looking how to start the fight. I can answer the same question as Azael for Santorin, because Santorin right now, he has the highest kill participation. He has the highest first blood rate. He has the most kills of any jungler, and he only has less KDA than Smithy, because they're on Team Liquid, and Team Liquid's won all the games.
When you win a lot, your KDA is usually.
But Santorin is popping off, and that's what he's bringing to the table this time around. He's come a long way from everyone memeing him for becoming a ward bot on TSM.
Yeah. But it has come a long way. Yeah, I always thought like even the days on TSM, like he was a very good like mechanical player. Yeah. Like his Lee Sin and Elise were already pretty good, but he was never able to like showcase how good he was at those champions.
Yeah. That's the thing though. I feel like community can understand when there's numbers like that, right? Like they can look at Santorin and like, all right, he has the most skills,
good player.
Yeah, he's a good KDA and he gets first blood a lot of time. Okay, well this guy's good, right? Everyone else sucks. But when it's less obvious and where maybe there's other things that people are contributing, that's where I think it is harder to tell. And even for casters, even for people who watch the game constantly, one of the things that you have no idea on is who's actually calling things in game. What is that atmosphere like around the team? What are like all these extra things that players bring to the team? And that's something that sometimes we miss out on. And I think that's one of the easiest things to get wrong. Talking about NALCS a bit. People have been criticizing NA for being a really slow region. It is, you said, I believe, the slowest win time for any region right now.
What's the average win time?
Going into last week, it was 35-45.
Jeez.
Yeah.
NA games are. I mean, I guess we inflated one of the games too because we had a 40-minute game
or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit before though, because there's a couple different ways to look about it, right? And for me, one of the other things I was bringing up was in the early game, I've seen a lot of trading. So if you look at all the turret plates and how powerful dragons are, we've actually done pretty active early games in some of the games. But a lot of the wealth is traded, so one team doesn't get significantly more powerful than the others. So there's not as much snowballing. But you've also had a lot of scrim experience and everything with the type of games that have been going on in our region. How do you feel it has really shaped into this? Maybe some of the possible.
I just think people they fail a lot when they have the control. Like most teams, like when they either like give up the control too easily or they
so we're bad.
Yeah. I mean it's just not
could have lied to us.
Just not controlling the vision really well, because even for us, like the games we were ahead in the game we should have won against COG, or maybe not should have won, but we had a pretty big goal lead. We pretty much just didn't set up in their jungle like at all, and we kind of just let them come back in the game by not choking them out and letting them just farm. So that was our biggest mistake. And I can see like a lot of the games too, people do throw that way, and we also pick the comps, like the full poke comps now, so the games do go longer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I do think vision is such an important part of being able to close that out. When I think of one of the few games I've seen where someone didn't actually draft late game and was able to close it out was C9 playing some of their poke comps. And one of the things that they did do so well was, as you say, actually controlling vision in the enemy jungle, farming away all their camps. And they had such a focus on pink wards that it was, I think the game I'm thinking of was actually against Golden Guardians, I want to say. And they were running like Zoe and Ezreal and, just all this pokey style stuff. And if you can actually force them constantly to be checking into fog against a poke team, that's where you can actually start getting picks. But, when teams are trying to walk down a lane with that, if you can see them coming, it's very hard to actually feels like close out a game.
If you're A-ramming mid, you normally never get to win the game.
Yeah. Unless you're the Scion team.
Yeah.
Then it's great.
TSM has been a pretty big topic because they had a really bad start. And Reggie even posted on social media. A lot of people were, and St. Vicious as well, I think, chimed in as like TSM are doing a lot in the early game, as far as this early game talk we're talking about, like trying to force a lot of plays. But Reggie said their big mistakes were in the mid game. I would say that they have also messed up a lot of the early game plays. Yeah. If you've seen some of the Acadian plus Broken Blade, they're like two-man skirmishes.
Yeah, we've seen them mess that up like pretty often.
Yeah, in scrims and stuff as well, or just on stage. It's really interesting to me to like kind of evaluate all the teams right now, because there is Team Liquid at the top. They're back-to-back champions. They added a world champion to their back-to-back championship roster, and they got Jensen. But maybe underneath Team Liquid, it does feel like there are so many teams that have a chance at establishing control there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it is interesting the Twitter conversation because there's like a lot of people chiming in and kind of arguing. Because Saint was talking about how he thought basically TSM was one of the only teams being aggressive, and that was kind of the reason that they weren't really having success. And then ThinkCard was chiming in and saying no, all these other teams are aggressive. That's not true. So it is interesting. Everyone looks at the game so differently, right? And I do think TSM. I don't think they're doomed rather, right? A lot of people are starting to get pretty kind of down on them, I think, very, very early. But as you say, it's spring, right? Like there's a lot of games to play. There's a lot of time to improve, especially when you are incorporating new players into a team, right? They have Broken Blade, who's very, very fresh, and Acadian is playing with these new players. So, Smoothie being incorporated with Sven after Sven had played with Mithy for so many years. So I think that team still has a lot of time to grow, but one of the teams that has been kind of impressing me and stepping a bit away from the rest of the pack is certainly Cloud9. I think Cloud9, I wasn't expecting them to, I guess maybe do it like as well as quickly, because I felt like they're gonna have a hot start because they had their big Korean boot camp and all that. But Niski, I feel like has filled in Jensen's shoes really, really well. The team doesn't really feel very different than when I was watching them in the past in NA, and that's something that I wasn't fully expecting. Like, I knew Niski was good, but Cloud9 is still able to kind of play their style and play these aggressive comps and play these different strategies.
Yeah. I mean, they won Worlds, so Worlds, so you got 4 of the players that are still there, so they definitely retain like a lot of knowledge going into spring.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see because a lot of people I think were really concerned about the loss of Jensen, but Niski has been doing a great job.
Yeah, he definitely has. I really also feel like Cloud9 benefits so much from kind of the structure that they've worked on for so long. Reaper has always been such a good coach, and they've always had Sneaky as this. He's been playing as long as you have. Yeah, you guys were on Quantic together.
not together. I mean, like after.
Yeah. But like he's always been this kind of rock for them, I feel like, because his personality is like so jovial and he can kind of keep everybody on the same page. But now also Licorice stepping in with how much success he's had. He also seems like another guy who would be a leader on that team. Do you know anything about like the
I don't know anything about C9 team dynamic. All I know is like Sneaky does a lot of other things. That's pretty much all I've heard.
So who do you see as the teams that you think are going to kind of start to like separate themselves from the pack a bit then?
Right? It really depends. So right now, like I feel like every week is totally different. Like 9-1, 9-2, 9-3. Like all the patches are extremely different. Like we already lost the Akali, Aatrox is nerfed, Galio's nerfed. Like you're losing so many champions. Lissandra got nerfed on 9-3. And then AD carry are like completely different now because of the new items. And I just feel like whichever team can figure out like the patches the quickest and are able to pull away, it's gonna be like it could be us, it could be another team. I don't even know it could be, but it's a team to figure out the patch will definitely pull ahead.
Well, Clutch tried their hand at the Frostfang patch, and they went full poke team composition. Tried to do that first, and it like they didn't end up winning that game, but I feel like that's the type of thing that you're talking about. Like, as soon as something new comes out, the first people to jump on it. Like, Cloud9 were the first to play Silas. Licorice was the only good one that I've seen out of all the pro games that I've watched.
I just think it's like the style. Like, whoever can master like a certain style and like are able to like, I guess, cheese games would just like get all wins,
I mean, Urgot is going to be still in there pretty heavily for 9.3, so that's still going to be there. But I'm pretty happy that a lot of the other stuff is kind of getting knocked out, and people have to be a bit more creative.
I don't like Urgot either. Urgot's like
he's really not fun to watch.
Yeah, he's not fun to watch. He's such a fat tank.
Yeah,
such a fat tank.
And then they also they tweeted out, the balance team. They did a very quick hotfix for the Frostfang thing.
Yeah.
So even though we did see that last weekend, the hotfix is actually going to be in for this weekend because I think a lot of the teams voted for it. So that won't be another one of the adjustments that we have to look for. I think 9-3 itself is still going to be interesting, though.
Yeah. Another team a lot of people are talking about is Golden Guardians. It was looking pretty doomed for them. Started with the 0-4 again, after 2 10th place splits back to back. And they did not only get one win, but they had a 2-0 weekend. And Contracts was saying it's probably his first 2-0 since he was back on Cloud9.
Wow.
So this is like a big deal for them. What do you? Like, I'm kind of interested to hear what you guys think about Golden Guardians in general. Like, is this just a kind of flash in the pan 1 week, or do you think they're going to start actually becoming a better team? Because they did look, I think, a lot stronger. But the Karthus pick also, I think, was pretty huge for them.
Yeah, Karthus definitely is a big part of it, but I feel like too many fans are saying, oh, it was only this one thing, because I feel like people have a tendency to pinpoint something about it that was repeated in both ones. They're just like, well, yeah, exactly. Like, that was the whole reason. That's the only reason they won. Watching those games, they do I think the biggest thing they did was, while they did draft strong late game, they also played accordingly, right? So they played defensively. They collapsed in their own jungle. They got a lot of gold back in the early game. While TSM was playing aggressively, and that allowed them to get to their mid game, to get to their Ezreal scaling and Karthus to come through. And I do think that Froggen will have more options. Yeah, Karthus is a very unique champion and super strong right now, and I think he's actually even on their like table for nerfs. They tweeted out another picture of like what they're planning to nerf. So that definitely is a part. But I also think that the Golden Guardians had some genuine improvement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like Hunter said in his interview, like they're just improving as a team. And before they were playing like more individual style, I think, like just pick strong lanes and hope they can like win just because they're individually better. But it's really hard to like just win that way, I think. So now I think they're putting a bigger focus on performing as a team. And yeah, they're just finding their stride as a team right now.
I really like the bringing up, patch to patch, week to week, who's going to do well in the new meta. Let's look at this upcoming weekend, because your first game is going to be against 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
And they are just coming off of a 2-0 weekend. Someday looked way better. Bang had his pop-off moment where he chases down Power of Evil. He's like, it's Bang!
Yeah, this is Bang!
Yeah. This is Bang!
This is Bang.
So... in your interpretation of 9.3 and how you think the meta is going to be, how do you guys think you're going to stack up versus 100 Thieves?
I mean, what day is it today? It's Wednesday.
It is. It's early too. It's still really 9 something.
Yeah, so right now for our team, we're like putting in a lot of time right now. We're playing like even triple blocks just because it's a new patch, and we really want to get on top of 9.3 because I think we kind of dropped the ball last week on week 3, and 9.2 is just a patch we didn't really adapt to very well. So I think everyone's on our team is putting a lot more effort in learning 9.3 and just seeing what's OP. I don't want to share too much because this weekend.
You don't have to share secrets. Maybe you can speculate on 100 Thieves and what they might put up against you.
Honestly, I don't even know. AD carries is just going to be really fun, I think, this week. Like, you might see like a lot of new AD carries. I think Azael is still going to be very highly contested. It's like most popular pick in North America right now with like a 71% win rate or something. Like absurd.
Yeah, especially for all the late game stuff. We were talking about it. I mean, Ezreal's late game is so safe. It's so insane, especially when people are doing a lot of Tahm Kench Ezreal. It always feels like, okay, Ezreal's on 6 items. There's no chance he could ever die now with Tahm Kench sitting behind him. It's pretty insane. How is it for you when seeing all these imports come over? Is it exciting for you, or do you not really care playing against guys like Bang when he comes over, and Huni and Someday and all these guys, like as they're getting imported? Is that kind of exciting as an opportunity to prove yourself against them?
Yeah, it's definitely very exciting. You just want to see like where you stand against them and like what new tricks you can pick up. If they have like tricks they bring from their region, and then you just like steal them, and you're like, nice, I'm Korean. I'm Korean now. And then I think the thing I don't think Ezreal is deserving of a nerf right now, but he is a champion that is pretty strong. I just think teams haven't figured out like a way to effectively play against this champion, because his laning phase is like pretty weak. Yeah. But he does like scale like a monster. So it's really hard to say like, oh, is it? Yeah, I don't know.
The hybrid build. So even how much burst damage he can do to champions if you hit your skill shots. At least you have to hit your skill shots.
Yeah.
But looking at him killing turrets, he's like, boom, 2 shots, 3 shots, turrets dead.
Yeah.
It seems so nuts later.
That's kind of absurd.
It's pretty insane.
I don't know like what like I feel like if he gets any nerfs, he's just gonna be like unfun to play.
Yeah, because you do still have to like you still have to play 2-tier items. You have to go through the early game.
You still have to play really well to like play this champion.
Yeah, and you have to hit your skill shots.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is that he's not actually standing out as far as like regular solo queue play. Like, he's one of the lowest win rate AD carries. Right.
Don't nerf.
But if you're really, really good at him, he kind of reminds me. He's kind of almost the AD carry equivalent of when I think of Azael and Rise and some of these champions that would still get pro play even with crap win rates, because if you're super good at him, he's super good, right?
I mean, we've nerfed champions with like 46% win rates
true.
before.
But usually when they have kind of unfun play patterns and stuff, and then I guess that's the argument is like, is Ezreal making the game uninteresting or whatever? And if people feel that he is, then I could definitely see
I think it really goes back to NA teams. I know I'm putting a lot of emphasis on this, but like we're not good at mid game. Like most of the NA teams just don't have like a solid mid game, and the counter to Ezreal is just like being able to control the mid game very well and like not allowing him to set up
scale 2 tiers.
Yeah, not allowing him to set up to start poking, and that's like where teams are faltering against this guy, because once you have the control as Ezreal, you can just like hold it for a really long time, because the way he plays around mid priority is just crazy. He just gets to poke you from everywhere.
Do you think that you have to play that mid game style then, or do you think that like we can maybe even go into a little bit of 9.3 talk with this, but there's obviously the new ADC item changes coming out in 9.3. That's going to be live for LCS this weekend, which is going to be pretty cool to watch. But with some of that coming in, are there crit marksmen you think you can just pick and say, okay, we're going to like handshake and you play slow, but I'm playing Jinx, or you play slow, but I'm playing Sivir, or whatever? Do you think that's an opportunity as well, or do you actually his late game is just too safe? It's just too consistent.
I do think Jinx is probably back in the. It's really hard to say. It's the patch hasn't even been out for that long, I think. And there's just so many new picks you can pick. I think AD carry is going to be definitely a lot more fun. I think people will see a lot more variety. I think we already have like really, really good variety in AD carries in LCS, but even with this new patch, it'll be more champions showing up as well.
Do you want to talk about the new patch a little bit more then? Because you were talking a little bit earlier, and you're like, if I see,
I just don't want to share like too much of what I'm trying to figure out, but I'm not trying to share too much of what I'm trying to figure out, but
you got some good picks ready, and you got some counter picks ready.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out my counter picks. That's what it is right now.
All right, I like it. I like always having things prepared. Last week, Azael was really loving the Phantom Dancer just as one of the new items, how much safety it provides. I feel like that does open up a lot of options for AD carries.
Phantom Dancer is by far like the happiest change I've had on 9.3. Like I just love buying that item. It helps me play like a lot more aggressive, which is what I like to do. So yeah, I think overall I just really like the change to PD. Like it's actually an item.
Yeah. I mean it's really strong. As you said, we talked about it a little bit last week, but also their intention was giving you some sort of defensive option that didn't feel like it's ruining your build path. And I think it's super has done that, right? You're playing against a fed Rengar, you're playing against a fed LeBlanc or whatever. And now you don't have to feel like you have to go some terrible build to be able to not get one shot, right?
Yeah, that feels amazing, honestly. Yeah. Like I can't really emphasize how much that's helped, because like normally you would just buy like a Stormrazor, a crit item, and then you'd be like, oh damn, do I have to get Hexdrinker for this LeBlanc, or do I get my IE? Because if I get Hexdrinker, I'm not gonna do any damage.
Yeah, especially when they have LeBlanc and a Scion or something, right? Where you need to actually have really high DPS to even be able to hurt them at all.
If they have LeBlanc and Scion, and you have to like stray away from buying IE just like for a little bit, it's like, damn, I'm using 1,300 gold on Hexdrinker just to stay alive from LeBlanc. Yeah. That feels pretty bad.
I'm seeing that meme of the dude turning around holding the one girl's hand.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, he's holding the Hexdrinker and he's like, but I feel like that thing might be, that meme might be a thing of the past with the new Phantom Dancer. He can get everything he wants, find the one.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone is going to be going PD against any sort of aggressive team if you're worried about getting burst down at all. I mean, it's just a generic kind of catch-all item. It's magic, it's physical, it's everything. The shield is obviously really, really strong and doesn't disrupt your build path. We're also seeing, a lot of the other changes. Stormrazor is another one. Curious to get your opinions on that one, Turtle, because I have not really felt like it fits too well into a lot of the builds that I was looking at or trying. It's quite expensive, and the stats on it don't really feel like it justifies it unless you're trying to do. I mean, some people are doing some of the stuff where they're doing rapid fire Stormrazor Caitlyn or Tristana or whatever, because there's some cheesy stuff you can do where I think you can actually outrange the turret and just try to slowly poke down. So I don't know if we're going to see strategies built around that, but it just feels for my money, better just buy another Zeal or a Bloodthirster or something.
Yeah, there's just so many better items you could buy than Storm Razor. I feel like it has the stats on it are just like not great, and even the slow you get from it is like not amazing or anything. Where you're gonna like, it's not like you're gonna proc it and like catch someone. It's actually rarely gonna happen like that. So it's always just better to buy. I think right now just buy like BT or like another crit item, just because it's so much more cost effective than this item is. Like when I buy this item, I'm like, damn, I'm gonna start popping off. But you buy it and you do like virtually no damage.
Yeah.
I literally thought this item, like I thought the new build was gonna be on Jin, the IE rapid fire cannon and Storm Razor, just because I thought if you proc Storm Razor, you'd be able to land like all your Ws. So that's not the case.
Yeah,
it's not the case.
I'm also looking. I mean, so much of the patch is centered on the Marksman and the crit item changes, but it's not just those item changes. I feel like so many of the powerful solo laners have also been nerfed. You know, the Aatrox and Akali and all that stuff. And I think Urgot is, you know, he's on the table for the next one. He's escaping for now, but soon, I guess. So if they're nerfing a lot of the powerful solo laners, plus even Camille Jungle got a big hit on 9.3, and she was a really big one of the aggressive junglers. With those two things, plus the fact that we already had superpower first dragon bonuses, I feel like everything is pointing me towards the bottom lane as far as you know the 9.3 meta. And that's been the way that I've been playing, at least for jungle, is targeting so much more towards the bottom lane. Do you think that we're going to see that in LCS? Is all the teams just kind of go that side of the map, and what does maybe that mean for the rest of the top laners and stuff like that?
I think for sure like getting your AD carry is like always good to get them ahead, but ultimately I think it's still going to be like a solo oriented game where if you get like the top laner ahead, he's going to be able to do like a lot more on the map just because he has a TP. The thing is, like, if you get your top laner an advantage and he has TP advantage, your bot lane is going to be able to play like a lot better too, you know?
Yeah, it's really bottom lane's advantage.
I guess it is in the end. At the end of the day, if you help another lane, they're always gonna help you back.
It's funny because depending on what role someone you talk to plays, they always tell you it's a different role that is the role that matters most. Because every top laner I talk to is just saying,
everyone's like, that.
no one wants to come up here and help my ass. They're all, come down bot lane. Oh, there's waves of your turret. Well, TP bot lane. That's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't need that farm.
Yeah, you don't need that wave. There's a wave down here for me.
Yeah, for me. And you got TP so I can get it.
I think actually like 9.3 is like a lot of like really centered on AD carries. I think it's really similar to the last patch in terms of like you're still gonna get that Ezreal in your game. You're still gonna get like Kai'Sa in your games. Like the pool for AD carries is pretty much gonna stay pretty similar. But now all these other top laners are like changed, nerfed, like removed, and I think there's gonna be like a ton of new picks for top laners. That's just my prediction for this week. Like you're probably gonna see a lot of new faces.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about that. That's the best thing for me about seeing a lot of these OPs get nerfed is it's actually freeing up more bans. And I don't really care that much that Urgot is still going to be OP because I think he's going to get banned every game because he's the kind of last remaining guy of these super high presence champions that didn't get nerfed. So, okay, there's one ban that you have to do each game or whatever if it's Urgot. Maybe there's some others that people are still going to feel, but he should be getting taken off the table a lot. And then it does open up for a lot of these other ones that I'm more excited to see, like the Silas. I think York should definitely be in there. I think he's really strong. And I do think that opens up for a lot of other champions. As soon as you bring in a couple new champions, then there's the whole new door opened up of, okay, well, what counters that and what works well with that? And you can start seeing a lot of different stuff. I know Fiora came out in the LCK. I've been seeing a lot of pros playing Jace and some of these other picks like that as well. If Yorick is getting played, Yasuo is the biggest counter to Yorick, so maybe we get some Yasuo. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, so let's apply some of this patch discussion that we're having to LCS teams. And I want to get back to what I asked you before about your 100 Thieves matchup coming up. Because you're specifically going to be laying against Bang. And of course, their top laner Someday, who, had a really good week last week and can teleport down. How do you feel like, maybe what type of players they are and, how they fit into this 9.3?
I think if Huhi's on an engaged champion, it's going to be really scary. Like his Lissandra was really good last week, and his roaming, like his Aurelion Soul. Obviously, he doesn't play that anymore, but I do think Someday is a really strong top laner right now. Like you can see most of his games, he's always like doing really well. I don't think he's gotten like dominated on yet. So
yeah,
Someday is always like that backbone for them. So I think against our match against 100 Thieves is just gonna be like if we're able to get like a solid early game and just being able to translate that to like objectives and just playing the objective game really well. Because right now I think 100 Thieves has gotten a lot better than they were from just week 1. Like week 2, they were getting slowly better, and then week 3 they actually got 2 games, and I think they're still improving right now. And we're in the phase of improving too, so I have no idea what that's gonna be because I don't think we're that good right now either. Like we have so many issues. I think every team has like a lot of issues. It's just whoever shows up on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever does not show their issues.
It's kind of that's what it feels like to me right now. It's like whoever just shows up on like LCS day, because I think most of these teams are extremely close. Like nobody, I don't think anybody expected CLG to be like 3-3 right now, and they just came back because they just showed up big on those days. It's just a game of feel.
Yeah, Someday is also a guy that I am excited to watch play because he is one of the ones that I think is pretty willing to bring out new picks. Last year we saw him bring out Darius. I think he was one of the only guys that played out Nasus at one point as a tank counter. I have seen him practicing a lot of the spelthy stuff, which got patched out. But you know he is very willing, it seems like, to try a lot of the new stuff and experiment. Both him and Licorice are 2 guys that I'm kind of looking at to bring out some cool stuff. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited for that. I know Licorice obviously already brought out the Silas. He's known for the Echo, which didn't work, and the Hecarim, which did work. So it'll be
Hecarim,
cool.
I think, was on their little graphic of
as a buff.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I'm so excited.
A lot of solo queue Hecarim actually.
I'm actually so excited for it.
How can Hecarim be buffed? The rank 1 guy in NA right now is a Hecarim player.
Yeah,
really?
I've been seeing a lot of Hecarim in solo queue. People are playing.
I love Hecarim still. Getting early Predator and just running around the map super fast has been
let me double check right now. I'm pretty sure the rank 1 NA player is the Hecarim, or like
if that comes to fruition, and again, when they're tweeting stuff out like that, those are just kind of what they're thinking about, what's on the board.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that they're giving us that insight into it. So I don't want people to flame them if it doesn't come out or whatever, because they're letting us in on stuff they're working on that might not come out. And they could change their mind. So
we don't know. I found him. He's ranked 2. Yeah. He's ranked 2. But he's
he has a lot of other stuff.
But he's a Jarvan one trick now.
Yeah, he switched over to the Jarvan.
But he's honestly a Hecarim one trick. But he's playing a lot of Jarvan now. So
yeah, he's got the mind of a Hecarim.
He's got the
body of a Jarvan.
Yeah, body of a Jarvan.
He's a true Centaur player.
Yeah.
So as a pro player in LCS, you're talking about just showing like it's all about who shows up on the day. Then how are you trying to best like control that so that you guys are putting your best foot forward on any given LCS day? If all these teams are that similar that anyone could beat anyone.
I mean, it's just like how you're practicing now. I think like if you're able to translate like what you're practicing onto LCS, and I think that's like one of our issues too. Like we're not able to practice in a way where it's like easy to translate to LCS. And I do think that the teams that do play the best are the teams that are able to do that. Like I'm sure some teams feel like they can translate like what they've learned in scrims to LCS. Because like a lot of people were saying Golden Guardians was a good team, and they were like pretty good in scrims too, but they were never able to translate like their early game leads in LCS to like something bigger. And I think that's what they realize. And a lot of players are just training the way they practice now, because you can't just pick 3 winning lanes in scrims and just like stomp them. They'd be like, yo, we're so good.
Yeah, not really gonna learn a lot from that, I guess, right?
It's kind of interesting to me because with a lot of the scrims I've watched, obviously there is
unless you're G2, of course.
There you go.
G2 can definitely do it.
It's like almost like a meme, like the limit testing and whatever. People talk about that a lot in scrims, but a lot of times when I've seen scrims, it is players playing so ridiculously aggressive that you would never do that on the LCS stage.
You would never do that,
right? I will not say the team name, but I had watched a scrim where legitimately both top laners TP'd to a bottom lane level 1 fight before minions had spawned. They're just fighting, right? The bot lanes start poking each other, and one top laners are TPing in, the other top laner starts TPing in, and they just have a 5v5 brawl in the bot lane at level 1 before minions are up. And I'm just thinking, okay, to a certain point there is limit testing, and you need to understand, okay, who kills who at what items, and you need to understand all that stuff, and that makes a lot of sense. But do you think that people sometimes aren't just taking scrims seriously enough or are being too reckless with it, if there's such a big divide that, you know, you're not able to bring your practice into stage success. Because I feel like I hear that so commonly from pros where people say, oh, well, it worked in scrims. Why, right? You know, it's like, but then they get on stage and then you're okay. Anytime the jungler could be top, you're going to back off instead of fighting, right? You know, Jace is a good example. People always kind of meme that pick as the NA Jace, but I know so many people talk to me about how successful it is constantly in scrims because they play very aggressively. They're up there pushing the turret. They're up there hitting for tower damage nonstop, whereas maybe on stage they're always going to back off.
I think it also goes to the point that like some players between like scrims and stage, like some players are really good at like playing safe in like matchups and scrims. Like sometimes people pick Jace and the other guy that they're playing Jace against isn't playing very well and they just give him like a free kill, like give him like a really good trade. But on stage they would like never give him like anything like that. So he would never be able to snowball.
Yeah.
So one specific thing I heard about for this and very recently is the Victor. So everybody was complaining about all the LCS teams picking Victor and failing with it. But I heard from so many people that Victor was smashing all these scrims. And he was so powerful because people were flex picking him everywhere. And this is just a specific example of this kind of phenomenon that's very recent and kind of pertinent to what's been happening. But it seems so funny to me because then the perception for the whole community is like, what are these idiots picking Victor for? Victor fails every single game. And all the teams are like, what the hell happened? In scrims, you were 20-0.
Yeah.
It's like Medias was saying.
Sorry.
Oh, Medias was saying last week about that. He felt like a lot of top laners in scrims just get bored playing against it because they have to play so safe and it's so frustrating. You're always getting poked. You have to give up CS. You can't challenge. But on stage, people, okay, they're playing Sion. Well, I'm down 15 CS. Who cares?
All right, so what I think is that effect, like, you know how Victor smashes scrims, like Jace smashes scrims. So like the top laner that has to play against those champions, he intentionally ints. So he can tell his team, like, yo, these champions are OP, man. Victor and Jace, they're so OP. You gotta let me play them. So they like intentionally int against those champions so they can play those champions.
So they get to play the fun ones.
Yeah, you get to play the fun ones.
Do you think scrim stuff is a problem then? That teams, if teams aren't taking them seriously enough? Or?
Yeah, I think it's a huge problem. Like even for us, like we're trying to imitate in a way. Like our practice is like completely different from LCS. Like the way we play on stage is just like, wow, we never practice like any of this in our practice, and we're just going onto LCS and like doing this for like potentially like the first time, and that's like a really big issue for like scrims and stage.
Is that a coaching thing or?
I think it's a coaching thing. It's a team thing. It's like a lot of things. I think there's no way to like put it on like one thing. And yeah, I do think like we're coaching in a way where we're trying to figure out like how we're gonna make our practice like really close to stage. And I think if we can figure it out this week, we'll have a great week. But it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that it kind of speaks to a bigger issue than with the region, because it's, you know, even if your team is going to take scrims incredibly seriously, if your opponents are not, you're still getting kind of invalid information, right? You know, one of the things that from my days, you know, doing WoW Pro stuff, there was very few teams that we would want to practice against, because if you practice against a team that was messing around or a team that wasn't very good, sometimes you would be taught the wrong strategies, right? You could be taught that a Victor is super good, but maybe Kobe's just running it down against me, and then I think Victor's really good and I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something where if the region as a whole wants to improve, and if we are trying to actually have it be more competitive consistently internationally, then that's something that day in, day out, people have to be taking it more seriously. Every team has to be taking it more seriously. And that's really draining. And that's what I get, like, for players. It is really, really draining to always be, you know, playing it slow, playing it serious. But I feel like unless all of the teams kind of change that mentality and are trying to play it like stage, it's hard for you guys to get real practice and actually, you know, consistently improve week to week.
Definitely can be the case. Since we're talking so much about practicing and you have so much time, you know, playing against all these other LCS teams, something we asked Medios and something I'm always super curious about is, for you personally, out of all the AD carries that you play against in this league, what maybe is your top one or two that you go into the game and you're thinking, all right, lane phase is going to be tough? Like who's kind of gives you a little bit of extra nerves?
I mean, definitely a team like Doublelift and Core JJ. They're definitely like the ones that's like, if you play against them, you know their jungler is gonna be boss down. Like, it's pretty...
So it's not
Jungle different.
The jungle different. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, those players they're very smart around like how they play the bot lane. They get good scenarios, and I think like a big point about bot lane right now is like a lot about knowledge about like recall timers, about how you can play the waves, and everything like that matters in bot lane. It's all about the details when you're playing. Bot lane, I think.
Is there any bottom lane you think is maybe underrated?
Underrated? I mean, I don't think there's any bot lanes that are like extremely getting flamed right now, right?
That's true.
But I actually haven't seen any bot lanes getting flamed lately.
I feel like Olay was getting flamed and they were doing poorly.
I guess it was just Olay, but it's not like no one's like flaming Deathly too though. It's just like Olay.
You could probably find someone who's flaming everyone. To be honest.
Yeah, I feel like maybe Arrow a little bit when he just came back.
I don't think there's like anyone like flaming a lot of bot lanes, but let's see who's underrated that I can think is underrated.
What about you, Azael? What do you think? Is there anybody that you feel
is a little
putting up the numbers, putting in the hard work?
I always think Apollo and Hakuo are a little bit underrated because I think that
Apollo and Hakuo has always been like they've been doing solid for like a while now.
I think everybody's has like caught up to that page now though.
I still feel like I see a lot of comments about how they're garbage and this and that, and they're not the absolute best bot lane in the league certainly, but they have actually I think done a lot of work for their team, and they've I think actually been having kind of a bigger impact sometimes than some of the bigger stars on their team who aren't necessarily stepping up.
I remember the one game Hakuo Thresh again, surprise or whatever. He hooked. Rengar, he hooked Rengar 3 times in one fight. It was Dardoch.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this Rengar pick," because he got some kills early, but then he was made to be useless. I think Hakuo is still like, and people definitely give Hakuo credit for playmaking, especially on Thresh. But yeah, I think he definitely still has it.
So what's your bot lane rankings? Give us your top 3 then.
Bot lane rankings.
Give us your top 3.
Hit me a hard one.
Well, Doublelift and Core JJ was his first answer, so we can put that in for him.
Sneaky and Azael, I think, are really good too. Like they just play really well as a bot duo together. They're really smart.
Yeah.
And do you think Sneaky is underrated then? Because as much as
is he underrated? I mean, everyone thinks he's good.
I feel like during Worlds, everyone talks about how good Sneaky is. He's very popular.
No,
people always meme his lane phases though, right? And I still think that there's some of that is around. Yeah.
I think Sneaky's a good player still.
Yeah.
Even after all this time.
Yeah.
After all this time.
Yeah, after all this time.
Who would be your third then?
Excluding us, right?
Yeah.
I think you should put yourself in there. You guys have done.
We're doing well, but we make like a lot of like we still have like a lot of weaknesses as a bot lane. Like we're good at some things, but I do think there's a ton of things we can still get better at. And if we can figure that out, then who knows? Like maybe we can be the best bot lane. Like,
I like this, still got it term because there's a lot of older players in our league, and recently people have been questioning guys like Afromu and Huni, where Huni came in and Huni has always been so incredibly good on stage. For a while, he's made a significant amount of mistakes, and then Afromu last weekend made people were flaming him for dying on Braum, teleporting back, dying again. Those two guys specifically, I'm super curious. Are they still putting up in scrims? Like, do they still have it? This might be a new section we can
still have it.
Do they still have it?
They got it.
Huni and Afromu.
It's really hard to say. I mean, the term of that is like we can always use this excuse right now, but it's really honestly just like early spring. Like a lot of these players, they come out with like a long off season. When you take like such a long off season, you can get like pretty rusty, and sometimes you don't even find your stride until like week 5, week 6. So like maybe we'll wait till week 5, week 6, and I'll talk to you guys again.
Okay.
It's tough because Huni, it's been a while for, right? Like I think most people are looking at the last time he was really being dominant as spring last year. In summer and Rift Rivals, people were really disappointed. He was getting slammed by Wonder, and a lot of those matchups didn't really work out as well for him. So I'm kind of sad seeing Huni not be as dominant as he has been before, because he had been so good in EU and then in A and then in Korea, and now it feels like there has been a stretch of not Huni dominating essentially.
That's
right?
true. Right? Huni's always dominated everywhere he was went. When he went to EU, he's the best taller. When he first came to NA, he was a beast. He went to the World Finals with SKT.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he's on Echo Fox.
Yeah. there you go. What an ending to the story.
That's unlucky.
How climactic.
All right, sweet. Well, we have a couple Twitter questions. Some people were hitting us up, asking some Twitter questions. We got a couple for you, Turtle, here specifically. This one's from the Friendly Healer at Therapist Gamer. He says, of everyone you played with, who do you miss having as a teammate the most?
Who do I miss having as a teammate? I think it must be just like the early TSM days. I really miss. I can name multiple people, right? Just not one.
Yeah.
I really liked Darius and Reginald. I really miss those guys as teammates because they were like kind of the first people I kind of met in that group.
You actually grew up with them.
Yeah, I kind of just grew up with them, and then Darius was always like a guy that would help me out a lot, and he would just have similar interests to me, and in terms of like food and shit, we just ate the same things all the time.
Do you still talk to those guys?
Yeah, I still talk to them. I still keep in touch with like all those guys, like whenever we're around the same area.
I've seen Darius in solo queue actually. Because he's still on my friends list, and he started playing a little bit again. I was super excited, because he quit for a long time.
Yeah. So yeah, he's still playing like here and there, and then I just really miss playing with Darius. We always roomed together when we went to places. So.
Your TSM answer actually reminds me of another question. It wasn't. It's not in our Twitter questions, and I forget who asked it to me. But someone asked me when they heard that you were coming on the show, if you hadn't lost to Samsung White that year, because the year when you guys went to Worlds and Loco Doco had set up, you guys were main scrim partners with Samsung White. This was Samsung's dominating year. And you had really instilled a lot of confidence in me because I was talking to all you guys and you're all like, oh yeah, we're crushing everybody. If you hadn't lost to them, do you think that you could have taken it? Or at least gotten to like
I think we would have been like at least a quarterfinalist, like maybe a semifinalist. Like we were pretty good at the time. I think we were beating most of like the other teams. Like we weren't having trouble with any of the other teams except like Samsung White.
Yeah.
And we ended up being actually like the main scrim partners for Samsung White, but they were just way better than they were like miles ahead of every team there. And we definitely like learned a lot from them. I really wish we didn't choke in the group stage because we dropped a really important game that would have made us like the first seed in our group. And then we wouldn't have to play them. But
I just remember that year so clearly because
it was a good year, man.
Yeah, there were a couple of years where I got super hyped, and every single year something like that happened. And then people
get hyped every year, Kobe.
Yeah, but some years more than others. And then every year that I got really hyped, something like that would happen, and people would just like beat me down again and again, be like, you're dumb. Why did you have this?
It kind of happened again even this year with Team Liquid. Team Liquid was like pretty much our star child from NA. He's like, yo, let's go. You got perfect grades in your division. And
then the younger brother, we always
dropped out of college.
We should have been giving more attention to the younger brother, Cloud9. That always
the younger brother, the younger brother came in clutch and
best performance yet.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what's gonna happen this year. I'm really looking forward to MSI. I really hope we can be the ones participating there because I'd love to go to those countries. And I'm just, we're gonna work hard, man. FlyQuest, NA, LCS first team right here.
Okay,
all right.
On the dive.
There you go.
We have another Twitter question for you, and we have to say one of Leah's because Leah sent in like 10 questions. But yeah, Leah B. Jackson says, has Jason ever owned a turtle? And if so, what was its name? What pet would he get now if he had time for it? So she sent in 10 questions. This is actually 2 questions in one tweet that we included as well.
Okay. I actually never owned a turtle, but my grandma had a turtle that I always like kind of visited, and then he was pretty boring, but I really liked him though. He was just always there, just doing boring stuff. I don't even know why I ended up with the name WildTurtle. It must have been. It's a really long memory now because I just really like the animals, and I'm like, why don't I just be a turtle, like slow turtle, like a slow.
The juxtaposition of the wild and the turtle, maybe.
I think I remember now what happened because like I had like pretty fast mechanics in games, and then I would just like play opposite turtle, and people would think like I'm bad and slow and stuff like that. And then I would just show them like crazy mechanics on like a guy with the name Turtle. And I think that's like kind of why I named it.
I like it. Yeah. Trying to deceive people.
Yeah, trying to deceive people.
All right, we got one more question here. This one says, What do you think is making the difference between Liquid finding success and Fnatic struggling? And both of them are kind of running more traditional ADC focused comps. What do you think it is?
I mean, in EU, they have like crazy good individual players, I think. Like G2 is pretty much just winning because they're just individually better than most of the players in that region. And I think for Liquid, they also have like really good individual players, but in the sense they're playing like more team oriented, I guess. And so they're using their like individual ability to get a stable early game and just scale to the mid game. And I think with Fnatic, they're just dropping the ball a lot when it comes to like keeping the game like pretty even, pretty stable. Like they're just losing out on some areas where there shouldn't be, I guess.
And for me, I mean, they lost their best player, right? They lost Caps, whereas TL was already back-to-back champions and upgraded. Kind of a lot of people feel like with Jensen and Core JJ, they brought in new people. Fnatic had to find a rookie. Nemesis, I think, is going to take some time to build up, right? This guy is brand new to the pro scene, and he's going to take some time. Any team loses a star like that. If TSM lost Bjergsen and had to grab some guy from solo queue, the team is going to look different, right? So I think it's just they're in very different situations. It's less about the style they're running and more about the situation that they're in without Caps. So I'm more interested in seeing how Fnatic looks, maybe end of spring or in summer once Nemesis has actually had more time, because by all accounts, he's a monster in scrims, he's a monster in solo queue, but it hasn't necessarily shown up yet on stage.
Yep. All right, I think that is going to do it for this episode of The Dive. We have a new homepage. The official homepage for The Dive now is going to be at riot.com/The Dive podcast. And we are going to have a new guest next week, so keep checking with me and Azael. I would like to thank WildTurtle so much for joining us once again. If you are watching live, stick around for Classic Legends. And if you are going to tune into the LCS, you can catch WildTurtle this weekend as FlyQuest take on 100 Thieves on Saturday and Clutch Gaming on Sunday. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And check out the new official homepage.
Peace.